Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Blake's Tinman podcast. And today we're talking about music and mental health. In the show today, we're going to explore that deep connection between sound, soul, and emotional well-being. I am your host, Gatlin Fenwick, and today I am beyond excited to welcome a very special guest, someone whose music has moved hearts, sparked joy, and brought people together in powerful ways. He's the lead singer of one of the Midwest's most beloved Americana bands, Them Coulee Boys. With raw, honest lyrics and a voice that hits like truth wrapped in harmony, his music doesn't just entertain, it heals. Soren Staff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to connect with y'all.
Soren, can you take us back to the beginning? How did Them Coulee Boys come about?
Well, it all kind of started, I was working at a summer camp in northern Wisconsin as a camp counselor, and I brought my guitar along, and I met Bo, our banjo player, within the first day that we were there for staff training. And within like half an hour, I knew he was going to be a friend for life. And within a few weeks, like I knew that he was like someone that I had just incredible musical chemistry with. So yeah, it definitely was something that started as a way to kind of relax after a long, hard week of, being a camp counselor. And we would just get together, we'd play songs together. And then, I had always been writing songs in my free time, never really with a project in mind, but it's just something I felt compelled to do. And then, the next year, my brother came up and he was a counselor as well. And year or two after that, we were playing songs together, and it just like kind of snowballed from there. It went from three guys in a cabin just trying to relax and have fun to like now we've been a band for going on 13 years and touring for 10 or 11 of those. And yeah, it's like our careers now, so it's really been an insane ride. Humble beginnings, and we didn't really think it would have went any further than that, but we're thankful that it did.
Okay, awesome. Great story. Did you guys start writing music, back in the band camp or the summer camp days, or when did that, like your original creations come about?
I mean, I was writing like in high school. I had a pretty bad high school band that I wrote songs for. And I was like on and off doing it during when I was at college. But yeah, I really started like digging in into songwriting, like when I had those guys. I think it was something that I like to do, but when like I was able to like then take those creations and show them to my friends and have them be excited about it, I think it kind of drove me to do more of that. And songwriting has always kind of been this avenue for me to like reflect or process, what was going on within me or like around me. And it was a time of big change and turmoil in my life, while also like just like a time of like inspiration from connecting with the band in the way I did. So I mean, like it definitely blossomed, having actually been in the band and getting going in that direction.
Do you remember like a lightning bolt moment? I mean, was it like after your brother moved up and your band was growing, and when you realized this is more than just a jam band, this is something real?
I mean, as far as like creatively, maybe I like, it was a Bible camp. It was Luther Park Bible Camp in Sept, Wisconsin. And we, you're tasked with like 3 times a day, we were playing music to try to entertain 12 to 14 year olds. And like, that's a pretty tall task, especially just normally. But then when you try to do it with, like religious music, it's hard to get. So like, we kind of like had to bring something to the table, just to like engage these kids, because we just wanted these kids to have fun. We saw this space as like an escape from like the tough stuff in the world, and we just wanted kids to have fun. So to do that, we had to bring energy, and we started to realize that energy, when we started to play outside and regular other gigs, like that was what like got people, that it resonated, if that makes sense. Anybody can play in the corner of a bar and people nod their head along, but like I think for me, when it felt like, oh, this might be something that like was something we could do, is just when afterwards you'd have somebody come up and be like, wow, I've never seen nothing like that before. And for us, it was just doing what we had always done, but to like go out into the quote unquote real world and like have people react that way, it was unexpected and just really fun. I mean, like this whole project has always just been about having fun, and everything else has been a byproduct.
Sure. That's awesome. That had to be a lot of fun. Those early, I mean, not just now, today still, of course, but looking back on those early days, like, wow, that was fun.
A lot less pressure those days.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about putting food on the table. It was more just like beer money kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. And how has the band's sound evolved or purpose? I guess maybe two different things, but since those early days, what's changed about your band, and what's stayed the same at the core? Yeah.
I mean, sound wise, we grew. We started with 3 guys, and over the course of the last decade, we've added a bass player and a drummer to that core 3 guys. And with that, like, there's an expansion of sound. We started as like a string band, so to speak, trying to do bluegrass kind of things. And while we still like keep like a foot in that realm, we've also kind of like took on this Americana rock and roll space, adding drums and electric elements, synthesizers and keys and organs. It just like I think the initial sound of being a string band was out of necessity. Like, I had an acoustic guitar, Bo had a banjo, my little brother Jens had a mandolin. That's the sounds we were going to make. But as we like continue to grow and continue to write and do things, the songs just called for something else. And we've always been believers in like, we're a songs band. We want to make music that serves the song the best way. So that, I mean, like that's, I think, what has changed the most. But I think, what stayed the same is like, I root all of my writing and all of our creating in like things that mean a lot to me. And, like that sincerity, that's passion, that's honesty. I always like say like, people can sniff out bullshit, so it's like, being honest and being sincere goes a really long way, no matter what you're writing about, no matter how it sounds. And that's kind of like where that's been a constant for us. And and with that, it allows us to explore spaces or topics that people don't really like to talk about in songs, because like, we're not afraid to be like, hey, we're going to talk about this hard thing, we're going to talk about this taboo thing, because like, it's part of the human experience, and that's what we're trying to capture.
Yeah, I love that. So you feel like your music reflects your own growth, but also your growth as a group, the guys.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
There been...
I'm just really lucky to have surrounded with like these guys that are just so down to grow and so down to explore. I think when you see success like we did at an early point in our band, it's easy to be like, we have to do that forever. And like, I've never really been interested in that. And I like just very thankful that these guys are both down to explore sonically, but explore lyrically and message wise.
Yeah. What keeps you coming back to the creative table after all these years? What keeps that fire continuing to burn?
That's a good question. I mean, it varies. I think like as a creative, as an artist, like you're lying to yourself if you realize that it doesn't change and ebb and flow. For me, like I really do love songwriting more than anything in the world. Like the act of pulling something out of nowhere and then making it work. Like I'm constantly, just fiddling with a lyric or fiddling with a melody and trying to make that puzzle piece fit into, something greater that, says what I want to say. And like, I don't know. I mean, I describe it as like this like burn in my gut. That's like, okay, I have something. How can I make it into something else? And, like as far as that act makes me motivated, but, like the material, like can change, like it could be, hey, I'm going through this heavy thing. I need to process it. Or it could be, hey, I'm feeling really great today and I want to celebrate that. Or, hey, I'm in love. Or, hey, I'm lost that love. It's kind of like, it can all vary, but I think the act of creation, just feels like something I'm compelled to do, even if it's bad. Like I still like doing it, and it's I just like, it brings me a lot of joy, and I'm wired to seek that out. I think we all are, hopefully. So
I wish I was.
Right.
Your lyrics are always touching something deep, like both personal and universal. But when you write, do you think of that as a type of therapy for yourself?
I think in the past, like I definitely like did, and admittedly, like I think I skewed too far in that direction. I think expression is like an incredible tool in the toolbox to deal with, mental health issues. And for me, like it was like an awesome tool for a really long time. But I also learned, like through therapy that like, like it couldn't be the only tool, it had to be a part of that. And I had to try other things to help me out. And, it's like, I think it's beautiful when people describe, like listening to music as their therapy or, or something that, like boosts their mental health. 'Cause it does. Like it's definitely like a part of it. But I think in the past, leaning too much into that led me down hard roads. I used to, had this mentality that like I couldn't make good things unless I was going through bad things. And it's like, I don't want to, like exist that way. I want to be happy. I want to, figure my stuff out. So it kind of like, for me, like, yeah, it's a part of the toolbox, and like, I'm very thankful that it's a part of that. But it was a lot healthier for me to like realize that, it's one piece of the puzzle.
That's a great answer. Yeah, we talk about that on the podcast a lot too, and holistic health, holistic mental health, and then not the actual spelling that you think of, but the spelling of holistic being WHOLE. Like there's a lot of different pieces to this pie of ours, the complex pie. And yeah, I could see, if anyone could fall in that trap of thinking, well, my therapy is this, and then that's all I need to do, and then get stuck, or, instead of stepping back, contemplating, hey, what else could we take a look at here? Or
right. Yeah. This works. So I'm going to keep working at it. And sometimes you spin your wheels, and like, like, I think just like having my eyes open to other avenues, to navigate those things, like it just like really helped.
And
And I mean, yeah, like I said, it still is a part of that for me, but yeah, it's not the crutch that it was.
sure. I suppose especially too, because now it's not, I feel like art itself is meant for the artist, not necessarily for whoever's going to listen to it or look at it or touch it or see it. But as far as like now, you have to, right? You have to create great music, right? Or you have to, you feel like it's your job, because it is. It's paying the bills,
it is. Yeah.
right? And so, I could see it definitely has to step out beyond that personal Soren therapy thing,
Yeah.
And that's good.
I mean, like, and we saw success with songs that I like, were like really hard songs for me to write. And like, I think like having a big part of, for me, was like rewiring to be like, like, hey, if I don't keep like carrying this torch in this way, like I'm going to be letting these people down. But like when it comes down to it, like I just me, being true to myself and making what makes me happy, or making what makes me feel something, like I think inherently just makes good art. Like I you're not supposed to think about the listener or the person who perceives it, but like, and I don't necessarily do that, but like, there's a long time that I felt like responsibility. And when I took that responsibility out of me and just said like, hey, I'm going to make these things that make me feel good, and most likely they'll make other people feel good too. And that was very freeing for me.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely working. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
And was there a specific song or album that you can think of that's helped you through a hard time, whether it's one you wrote or one you listened to?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be writing music if I didn't have those kind of albums. I mean, as far as, I mean, like, we're from Eau Claire.
Yeah.
We're from Eau Claire, and we have this, Bon Iver's from Eau Claire, and that Forever Ago, that was something, that was a record that held me. I have a lot of really sad records out there that just like were what I needed at a moment in time. Like Sufjan Stevens is someone that like I've listened to a lot of when I was like experiencing loss, and his record Carrie and Lowell, is one of them as well. But like I'm kind of like resisting a little bit there, because I love those records, and like I love the way they were quote unquote there for me in those like darker moments. But I mean, like I was saying earlier, it's a part of the equation. And like, I think art really has a huge power, to like help. It can't be the only thing. Cause I would put on those records and listen to them hundreds of times, and there was no growth. It felt good, but I wasn't getting better. But I think like, on the other hand, there's records that make me really, really happy, and those, are a big part of my life too. I mean, the Avett Brothers' Emotionalism is one of those records. It's just like I am instantly lifted. And
say that again.
Instantly lifted.
No, which album?
Like, the Avett Brothers' Emotionalism.
Okay.
There's a lot of darkness in it, but it's just like the way they present it, like kind of just like humanizes it. I like, yeah, I mean, like I have a million records that I could list off as like, being important to me through my like journey through mental health, or just like my journey in general. But yeah, it's all a part of the equation.
Have fans ever reached out to you to share how your music has helped them in their mental health journey?
Yeah, they have. And like, I used to be really intimidated about that. And like I brought up earlier about feeling like a responsibility there.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to it, like, I'm just like grateful. I think part of the reason why I like started writing music was I had these songs that, held me when I needed them, or I had been moved by these songs, and then I felt that I could do the same thing. And like, then to have like people reach out and be like, hey, yeah, this did a similar thing for me, and like these songs have meant a lot to me. Like, it's kind of like this spirit of like, okay, yeah, I got this gift from another artist, and now I can pass that gift on to other people. And like, it's definitely like, it makes you feel good to feel like you're doing something. But yeah, I definitely was afraid of it for a long time. And now I'm just like, hey, I'm just so happy to hear these stories, because I mean, it just like, hopefully then they can do the same thing, pass it on in their own way.
Yeah. Just another beautiful byproduct, right?
Yep.
So I'm sure this sometimes touring life can be both chaotic and beautiful. But what is your anchor during those high energy, high stress seasons?
Ooh, consistency where I can find it. Like, I've learned to like that I need a certain amount of exercise. I need to eat better. It's so hard to like get exercise and good food on the road. Like, you're at a lot of gas stations. But like, when I can get that consistency with my diet or my like activity level, that always helps, in those high stress things. Also, I mean, just like staying off my screen and trying to read a book, like, it's like, I've like it's hard sometimes to like create on the road. So I think I do a lot more of like consuming art and literature and stuff than making it while I'm out there.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, it's kind of just that whole like, yeah, I try to not be on my phone so darn much, pick up a book, eat good food, like get moving, like, and then just like plug into like the fact that there's 4 other people here, like, that are doing the same thing, and we're all in this together kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. You guys find time to get outside, I'm sure. I could tell by.
Oh yeah. We like loop in like travel days, and when we have time, like we've like been out west and like, okay, 2 days we're doing Yellowstone, or we always try to like take a detour to, if there's like state parks, national parks on the way, like we'll get up early and go kind of thing, just because you're out there a really long time, and you're out there so far away from home, and you might not ever be there again. So like, we try to take advantage of it. Also, like, one of the things we love to do is like local cuisine. Like, oh, we're on the coast, we're getting seafood. Or we're in Kansas City, we're getting this barbecue. I think like being able to plug into the local kind of like fare, or like the iconic things, like you kind of, when you're out there that long on the road, you kind of got to find little fun things to do, and that's one of them.
Yeah, those little gifts you get from being in those neighborhoods you'd never get otherwise, and that's brilliant. That's an old yogi trick, right? Eating with the seasons, eating local, just whatever's available.
Yeah. No, it's you kind of, yeah, we definitely feel like, sometimes it feels so limited what your options are. So when you get something cool, you just take advantage of it.
Yeah. Soren, what's the hardest part about being the front man? Not just musically, but emotionally, as the leader of Them Coulee Boys?
Oh my God, I can give you the the podcast answer, or I could give you the real answer. I
We
mean,
want the real one.
yeah, I know. I mean, like, might as well. I mean, like, I think there's a lot of pressure. I'm like the sole songwriter for Coulee Boys, and like, as time has gone on and this has become more of our career, we get older, we get families, we get partners, we get houses, we get mortgages, and like, financially, it is not an easy life to be an artist, to be a touring musician. And, like, if there's one thing that, itches at me is like, are we successful enough to support these things in our lives? You know what I mean? Like, and that stinks. You just don't want to have that enter into the equation. I would love to just make the music that we want to make, and I would love to play the shows that we want to play and be able to be supported by that. But there's definitely like this thing in the back of my mind that I feel a responsibility to these guys. And like, I used to just like tear myself up about it. That was like something that I had to like reckon with when I like first really, like started treating my depression and anxiety and going to therapy. Like, that was one of the bigger things I had to confront, that like, it's not all on me. And like, these guys have their lives too, and they have their ways to support their people too. And like, if they want to be here, they'll be here, and they've wanted to be here for over 10 years now. And like, that was such like a hard thing for me to get over. And I still like have bits of that in me. But I think reminding myself that like, my job is not to like make sure I can support 5 families. My job is to just make music that I love, and hopefully, the result is something that does that, and I don't know. I mean, but it's definitely hard, I mean, it's like, it's not an easy existence, making music, especially in this moment where music has never been less valued. As far as like monetarily wise, access is way up, which is incredible, but the support for it is way down. So it's just it's a weird spot to be in, because I never want to be like, oh, pay me more or whatever. I'm just like so thankful that I get to play music for my job. But it also, it's like, we live in this society where that's how the world goes around, so we're trying to exist outside of that, and to some success and some not success, and that's that's the hard part.
Yeah, the reality of economics and feasibility and all that. But you find, if you trade in the worry for trust, or trade in your doubt for faith, that helps, and it's not all on Soren.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's I think, being able to set some of that aside has led to better things. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, you mentioned before, outside of writing music, that you found some other therapies. Do you mind expanding like what that therapy was, like a clinical setting talk therapy type is?
Yeah. I went to a clinical mental health therapist, weekly, kind of talk through stuff. And a lot of that was, just like processing some trauma, processing, like the way my brain works. Like, for me, it was a lot about labeling things. I didn't have words for the way I felt, or the way, I looked at the world or myself. And just like being able to label that, be like, oh, this is what my brain's doing here when I have this reaction, really helped. But as far as like, I had clinical mental health therapy, but also like part of that was also just like establishing things in my life that brought about better mental health outcomes. It's like, getting healthier, exercising more, not being on my phone so much, like trying to do, just being more organized, like things that like, were like, they were always on my radar and I knew they could help, but I think like, just like doing it all at once, like all of them combined, I'm not, I still have my issues and I still am on my journey, but like, it really has gotten easier, to navigate what I go through with that kind of like arsenal of things I can do to help. I've since graduated therapy, because I felt like I gathered enough, things in my toolbox to like do it on my own. But I've gone back when I needed to, and I think it's a lifelong journey, and like once I accepted that it is just always something I'd be working on and growing with, like I think it kind of like made it a little easier to like I don't know, I've had to really grow and learn that like sometimes like it's just not all going to happen right away, and that's kind of been good for me.
Sure, just to being patient with yourself and trust the journey. Did you learn any like rituals or practices in your therapy that you've implemented in your life? That, I mean, you mentioned just being cognizant of screen time, and is there anything else you put into your daily routine that has helped?
Routine, I mean, like I definitely I walk so much now. I get so many steps. I'm a steps fiend these days.
Walk and meditation.
But like, yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know. Honestly, awareness was the biggest thing. It was like, what is this thought that's making me like have this low self-worth? Is that from this? Is that from that? And then like, so these days now it's more like, like, I think it was just like becoming more aware of how my brain worked and why it was reacting to things the way it was, just made it so much easier to navigate that stuff. And like, it's become a daily thing where it's like, when I do, I recognize the situations that make me feel like that. And if I can avoid them, I avoid them. If I can't, then I do what I need to mitigate that kind of feeling. And, it's like, I don't know if it's routine or I don't know if it's like a practice, but I mean, like, I think just that awareness was just so huge for me.
Yeah.
And like, it's not necessarily like a rhyme or a reason, but like, yeah, just like keeping my eyes open, I guess.
Sure. Being able to watch your thoughts instead of just feel that they consume you. You can take a step back and observe them, right? Or be aware of them.
Right. For sure.
What was one last thing, Soren? What would you tell a young man right now who looks up to you, but is struggling in silence?
That's a big one. The strongest thing I ever did was ask for help. There's no shame in that. There's nothing, you should never feel lesser than for asking for help and for plugging into the people that you love and care about. I think as men, we are wired in this country that we got to be a certain way. And then when we don't fit into that box, it could be hard. And like if I think when you're going through it and it could feel very lonely. And I think just like, yeah, if I was going to say to a young man feeling it like that, I just like the strongest thing and the smartest thing I ever did was ask for help. Mm. You don't have to suffer alone. You have so many people that care about you and love you. And like, all they want to do is help. And like, I was so embarrassed for so long about feeling this way, and like, you know, like getting over that and realizing that like everybody's on my side. It might not feel like that, but the people that care about you and love you, they're on your side, and there's no shame in asking for help. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I would say.
That's a beautiful answer, Soren. In other words, asking for help takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of courage. Asking for help is courageous, and I admire the courage you have to create the music you do, and the message that you all share. And I'm really looking forward to hosting you on September 6th. We were told in our contract that part of the thing was to get you guys 2 hotel rooms, and we wanted to offer. I wanted to ask you this though. we have 4 rental cabins at our place that normally during the event various people stay at. Sometimes we've rented them out, but each cabin has 1 bed. There's 2 cabins with queen beds and 2 cabins with king beds.
Gotcha.
You guys, I mean, if your band could take up the cabins, like, we would love to host you at our place. And
we would be so down for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it's in there. Like we don't like require it a lot. If like, you know, it's in the contract, and sometimes we'll go, no way. But like, we would love to. I think that'd be awesome. We would love to do that.
Oh, very cool. No, I was like, great, we're going to put them at Holiday Inn Express. And then I realized if they only need 2 rooms, they probably only need 4 beds. Maybe they'll stay at our place, and that would be a lot of fun. So
yeah, we love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, as long as you communicate that to Parker, our manager, like he'll communicate it to my brother who tour manages, and we'll make it all. That'll be perfect.
Okay. Well, Soren, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to do this podcast. I really appreciate it. I know the listeners are going to love to hear from you, and I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you before I make it public, just in case you want to edit anything.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think we're all good. But yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. We're just really excited to come join you and have a good time in September.
All right. Sounds good, Soren. Thanks again, brother.
Yeah, take care. You have a nice day.
You too. Bye.